very high note. When I first saw the Gungan city, I was completely in awe. I was like, wow, this is amazing. This is incredible. George is really taking us to another place, and then he stops it. I mean, there's a great little shot where Jar Jar goes into the city as well as Jedi, but then it just goes very downhill. I mean, I get what he's trying to do. The camera is going to do this panning motion where we get a full image of the Gungans, and it's great. I mean, but I think looking back on it, it was very critical to do this scene where Jar Jar explains his exile. They get a ship and they move on. And I'm not sure if somebody can clarify. I think Qui-Gon does a Jedi mind trick, but I'm not sure. But the problem is, I think we were supposed to be introduced to a whole new culture, a whole new civilization. But I just think the Gungans don't work like the Ewoks. I don't think he thought through how are we going to care about or love these people. We're just getting a very weird cultural translator, which is what Jar Jar Binks. He's basically our representative of this primitive culture. And so Jar Jar is not the issue. It's that what he's trying to do symbolize all these different relationships. I think that's the dilemma. He just cannot act as a symbol for that. It just is going to crush itself. And once again, I'm going to be very repetitive. I apologize, George, because I forgot about this whole fish sequence once they leave the Gungan city. It's a pretty amazing thing, and it's going to go to the thesis we're going to propound a lot in this little section, which is, this is really a nature documentary. When you really think through the Phantom Menace, what is it? It's a mythical documentary about these peoples and societies and how they interact and conflict with one another. And he's very literal with the metaphor. I mean, one fish tries to eat another fish, tries to eat another fish, and you're like, wow, that's a lot of, it's not just the action. I mean, that's for the children, but wow, there's a deep metaphor on how, at the beginning, all these people are trying to kill one another, trying to destroy one another. I mean, they don't join together when the Trade Federation invades them. They don't care. The Naboo don't care about the Gungans, and the Gungans don't care about the Naboo. But the thematic message doesn't resonate because the plot and the story are just too weak. So it seems like I'm contradicting myself, but I don't think so. I think he is a great director, and the writing is good, but it's not strong enough to sustain this big philosophical message he wants to bring across to the masses. This is even proven in a deleted scene. So once they get done with, their little water adventures, which is very beautiful, it's all really well photographed and everything like that. But they finally get to the capital city to save Amidala. There's a section in the deleted scene where there's an extra adventure with a waterfall. It's totally unnecessary, and I'm glad he cut it, but I think the problem is, why did he film it in the first place? He wants more excitement, he wants more thrills and that kind of thing. But there's these great ending beautiful shots of in the waterfall sequence where you see a ship being destroyed. That's spectacular. That's one of the most beautiful things I've ever seen. And people should check out the deleted part. But in terms of the function of the plot, it makes no sense. The Jedi just save Amidala super quick. I mean, the droids are nothing to them. So you're like, wait a minute. If you could just destroy the droids so quickly and save Amidala and her kind of retinue and Panaka and all these people, why not just stay and destroy all the droids? It makes no sense in terms of the plot. I get it that some people argue there's a kind of mythical structural pattern. It's like a poem. It has to repeat itself, so he has to keep doing similar scenes over and over again. And I'm like, that's fine, but the plot and story have to coordinate themselves, and they really, really don't. They just create a lot of plot holes because he's more concerned with this mythical documentary style. That's what he cares about. I want to make an avant-garde film. I want to make, Jar Jar is doing body mime things. He's a pure physical actor. But I just don't think it works because you look at somebody like Darth Maul. Darth Maul has no dialogue. I mean, he talks for 2 minutes? It's nothing. Almost the whole performance is body. It's just Ray Park's beautiful physical movement. And spectacular. But here's the problem. George doesn't care about Darth Maul. He cares about Jar Jar. Him and Ahmed have tons of behind the scenes where they're working through the performance and going through, he should say it this way, you should say it that way, you should move this way, you should move it that way. That's a sign of a really bad storyteller. When you make one of the greatest characters because you ignore him. You have to be honest, if he paid attention to Darth Maul, if he did more with Darth Maul, it would be a worse character. The less George does with Darth Maul, the better character he is. And that's not good. That just shows you don't have the right kind of storytelling skills for what you're trying to do. If you want to do a documentary, that's fine. That's noble. But the way you're doing it is very alienating. So when we get to the Anakin sequence, that just proves my point. People keep going on that Jake is not doing a great acting job. the acting is not the issue because he's not concerned with the acting. Anakin is just a symbol. He's just a metaphor for everybody who can be good or potentially good and starts off with good ideas and good intentions but becomes corrupted. And the dilemma, though, is that when we really think it through, Qui-Gon Jinn is committing nothing short of, kidnapping him. He's not there to help him. He's there to be abusive. Like, he just sees him, and he just sees the Force. He just says, nothing happens by accident. That's all he cares about. How useful are you to the Jedi? His own desires do not matter. So I know how so many people get into this cringe thing with when he says to Padme, are you an angel? Yes, it makes no sense in terms of the universe. In terms of the canon, yes, it makes no sense in terms of Star Wars. But you think about it like a nature documentary, because we never get any motivation why Anakin talks like this. But if we see it like, okay, Portman, she is. He's very beautiful when she just smiles to the camera. You can see what he's fallen in love with, but they don't really have much of a connection. I think he's trying to say, like, this is just a symbol of how young people fall in love with one another. It's completely accidental. He's just coming from a good place. He's helping them out, but he does have some kind of romantic interest in her, but it's not sexual because he doesn't know what that is. He doesn't want her sexually. He's kind of fascinated by her. I mean, in terms of plot, it makes no sense. Like, he calls her an angel, but how would he know what an angel is? Even in terms of the script itself, it doesn't make any sense. But in terms of the broader themes, it does make sense. Like, there's a lot of imagery showing, and I'm not going to go through the whole thing of religious interpretation, where Qui-Gon, it's very clear he looks like Jesus. And Darth Maul is obvious. Darth Maul is very obvious. He looks like the devil. He literally has horns. I mean, do people not see this? He has horns. He's black. He's got red colors. He's clearly this kind of satanic figure. But I think the problem for the audience is like, well, wait a minute. Anakin is not going to be tempted by Darth Maul. Darth Maul wants to hurt him. Qui-Gon wants to help him. So it seems like the pattern doesn't make any sense. You're having this pattern of Jesus versus the devil, but why would he go to the devil? But I think it's a deeper critique. Qui-Gon is not a hero. I mean, he does a lot of ugly things. I mean, he's ordering Panaka around. He's like, I don't obey the Highness. She obeys me. I obey the will of the Force. And some of it's good. He's not like the Jedi. He's like, I'm trying to commune with the Force. The Force is telling me, find Anakin. And now you think through the plot. Wait a minute. So you're putting Amidala's life in danger. And by the way, Obi-Wan as well. So you're putting all these lives in danger to possibly get this kid who is the chosen one. Without any real evidence. You're just really, even with the metachlorine count, by the way, when that's suddenly introduced, you're like, people think it's a shocking moment. But no, it proves my argument. This is a nature documentary. But we'll put aside the logical and plot problems. But we're like, wait a minute. A big theme with Kubrick is technology fails. And if you look very closely, that's the one good thing about the pod race sequence. It's very Kubrickian. The pod fails. Like, Anakin has to do all this great improvisational stuff just to survive. He has to, like, fix the pod midway in order for him to survive. So in the script itself, in the text, machines fail. And he just sends this metachlorine count. And Obi-Wan's like, this is the highest metachlorine count. What does it mean, Master? He's like, I don't know what it means. I don't know what it means, Obi-Wan. I don't know. It's like, wait a minute. The whole film is like, stuff can be wrong. Machines can go bad. Like, machines destroying the environment. And he takes one count with the metachlorines and like, he is the chosen one. If he's the chosen one, why did you do the metachlorines? If it's objectively true, he has the highest metachlorine count, why do you need to count it? Wouldn't the Force tell you? And then if the Force is all scientific, well, how do you know it's absolutely correct? You're always going to be guessing. So it's like, it's not what he's doing a mess to the myth of Star Wars. That's its own thing. It doesn't make sense within your own story. Like, again, it's like he doesn't have a kind of writer's brain. He's not thinking through, what does this dialogue mean? What does this scene mean? He just cares about this kind of primal performance. He just wants you to see Qui-Gon not moving his face. Like the way he interacts with Watto and Amidala and Anakin, he never really emotes. He's always very stoic, but it's not because he's a good guy. It's because the complete opposite. Because he's basically bargaining with everybody. He's always negotiating. He's basically taking advantage of everybody. Watto, Shmi, Anakin's mother. He just doesn't care. Like, I'm here to get Anakin. I'm here to get the part. All of you must bow to the will of the Force. And Lucas is saying, no, that's wrong. What Qui-Gon Jinn is doing is wrong. What the Jedi did is wrong. As evil and ugly as the slavery on Tatooine is, we know clearly Anakin would have been better off with Shmi. I mean, people forget, he wins the pod race. He wins a lot of money. Qui-Gon, if he cared about him, would have been like, okay, let me help you out a little bit. We'll find a way to get you free, and if you choose, you can come with me to become one of the Jedi. He doesn't give him a choice. He indoctrinates him. He really fools him. He says, yes, you must come with me. You have been chosen. There is no accident. And his mother, I mean, she gives a great performance because she can tell what's going on. Like, there's even a scene where Anakin gives her money. Like, wow. Like, you're literally buying a child. But as ugly as that slavery is, which Qui-Gon does not care about, he's not going to do anything about it. And there's a cute little thing about the Republic. Well, the Republic doesn't reach out here. You know, its laws do not really reach to this little planet. So it's like, oh, so the Republic is all evil, right? It's completely corrupt. Fine. That's his message about the Clintons, you know, the Bushes. The American system is broken. Fine. I don't care about that. That's for another time in terms of the politics of the film. But thinking about it thematically, like, wait a minute. So Shmi is the victim. Anakin is the victim. So who are we rooting for? And I think we're stuck. Like, it's Anakin because he's very, you know, he's innocent. He's so generous to everybody. He wants to help everybody. And Jar Jar. And I think that's very jarring for people, no pun intended. It's they're not strong enough. I mean, we can't expect much from Anakin. He's just a little child. He's not supposed to be our vessel for this huge mythical journey. That's too much for one little child. And of course, people say, well, Jake is not a good actor. That's definitely true. But if you look at very small shots, he does a brilliant job because in certain scenes, you see it. You see the shadow. You see Darth Vader. So Lucas does capture Vader in Jake Lloyd. That's not the issue. The issue is that the plot and story are not structured well enough, so we don't have any investment. The only people we really would have an investment in is one person, Shmi, and she's just this kind of like this noble person who resigns herself. Like when she says, like, he has no father, you know, Qui-Gon is like, the Force. He never thinks, well, this poor woman, like, she's being sold into slavery, she's, you know, constantly being abused. He doesn't care about that. So it could be, I guess, a kind of powerful message of how women are being abused, but it's like, but what about Shmi? What about her? Shmi doesn't matter. It's the will of the Force. We must move on. We move on with the plot. The Darth Maul comes. We have a little fight. Now, Anakin, you will be trained, and you will fulfill your destiny. That is your job. It's like, again, it's a nature documentary, but they're puppets. We're not given real characters. The characters are totally empty. The theme is just so blatant and so repetitive. And some people have done a good job showing the visual parallels, but I think you have to be a little careful. Somebody was noting, well, it's very, very clear he's rhyming with Return of the Jedi. That's not true. As far as I know, and I could be wrong, there's a great shot where we see Jabba in Return of the Jedi. But when we see the hut here at the pod race, that's not Jabba, that's Gardula. That's why you have to be very careful that people say, you know, the great thing about the Phantom Menace is it's original. It's not original in a single moment. It's completely copying every other film. The problem is it's arranged in a way that's very Kubrickian. It's very frustrating. It's not fun. It's not enjoyable. It's not propelled by the narrative. It's sort of like the pod race is just there to sell toys. It helps us, you know, there's great little moments with the Jawas shooting things, and we get, again, this anthropology of the whole Tatooine society. But it's not enough because, again, the plot and structure are just too mechanical. We're just being led very clearly, like, okay, Amidala is going to finally get to Coruscant, and, of course, Palpatine's going to betray her, which leaves her, okay, I have to go back and get the Gungans and fight the bad guy at the end. But it's like bad guys right there. It's Palpatine. So it's sort of like, you feel like you're taking crazy pills. If you weren't going to really have a confrontation with the real bad guy, at least have a couple of scenes where Palpatine's evil is much more apparent. Otherwise, we're getting a very confusing thematic and color scheme because he has blue, right? Palpatine sometimes wears blue. So it's like, what exactly is the pattern here? The mythical pattern isn't as strong. And I get it. Like Lucas says repeatedly, I'm doing music. That's fine. I'm doing jazz. That's fine. But even jazz has to be disciplined. I think the major failing about the middle part of it is it's not disciplined enough. The music is fine. I mean, in terms of the poetry of the story, not the actual music. Like the real problem with Jar Jar is that he never leaves it alone. There's always these moments where he keeps going too far. Like Jar Jar's fine, the performance is fine, the jokes aren't that good, fine. But then he has this musical thing where he's not letting the audience just piece it together. Like they have to be told every 2 seconds, they're in love. You get it? They're in love. Qui-Gon, the Force, the Destiny. Okay, we're moving on. Like, you have to let the scenes breathe a little bit. The only one who's allowed to breathe is Jar Jar. And it's not that Ahmed is a bad actor, but it's like, Jar Jar is not enough for the whole film, for the whole mythology. You have to spread out. You have to structure these things better. So that's a tragedy. The middle part is not boring. It's not that it drags. It's that it's just thematically wonky. Like, the best part is Darth Maul. Darth Maul is introduced. We see him. And then he just goes away. I mean, the only time he's on the desert planet. And that makes no sense at all. That's another plot contradiction. But I'm not judging the plot. I mean, the story is fine. And I understand it's legitimate to do a mythical documentary, but it's the way he's doing it is far too alienating. And he could have just done a much better job just by being more disciplined. Still one of the greatest films of all time, but a very, very frustrating experience in its middle part. Okay, we're going to finish up with the next part and then do a wrap-up. Thank you. This has been Star Wars Analyzed. If you like or subscribe if you like the content, please like or subscribe. Star Wars Analyzed. Thank you for listening.